Hello, my name is Ernest, and I would like to answer the question today, what it means to be a leader. The definition of what it means to be a leader is an influence relationship among leaders and followers who intend real changes and outcomes that reflect their shared purpose. But what does it really mean to be a leader? First, I'd like to give you guys some background. I'd like to discuss the history and in the past what it means to be a leader. I'd also like to discuss today, the present, what it means to be a leader and how conditions are different. And then I'd just like to recap all of that and break down the obscure textbook definition of what it means to be a leader in hopes that it becomes clearer. I would also like to give you personal examples of mine and to discuss a way that I feel is important that could possibly help improve this OLS class and to help other OLS students really learn what it means to be a leader. First, I'd like to discuss two paradigms, the paradigm of the past and the paradigm of the present. In the past, you had basically a top-down paradigm focused on stability, and oftentimes your leader was seen as a hero. Today, leaders are different. Today's leaders are more horizontal. Organizations are more horizontal. And leadership is more crisis management. Today's leader is more of a behind-the-scenes man, or as was described in the course, a humble persona, as opposed to the hero. When discussing these two leaderships, two different paradigms, there's always this conflict between the definition of management versus leadership. And in the real world, these are often meshed together, but historically, leadership has basically been understood as management. The old paradigm seems to imply that managers were needed to ensure that short-term goals were met in a precise and predictable manner, and that things were organized. People were seen as commodities and units to be managed. Management was understood to be inflexible. And this is the old way. The present paradigm, the second paradigm, it implies that there's a measure of unpredictability. There's always going to be uncertainty in the workplace and in the organization. And the new paradigm is focused more on human motions and humans as people that are resources and not just units to be measured and commanded at will. Leadership is understood to be flexible, and this is the modern way. A quick example is 100 years ago, the majority of people in Western society never left their country of residence, not for work and not for play. Today, most statistics would tell you that the majority of Americans drive 30 to 60 minutes to and from work, and will travel countless hours and miles for mere pleasure. Today, we can pick up the phone, we can boot up our computers, we can travel to digital environments all across the world in different time zones. This is in fact a common thing for people to conceive and dream about and actually do. 100 years ago, it was a dream to travel across America, or a dream to just have a steady farm and a place to live. Today it's quite common and understood for you to travel miles to find work, especially in today's economy. The best example of people's indirect relationship to world travel is your trip to Walmart. No matter who you are and how far you have to travel to work, if you go to Walmart or Target, you will be hard-pressed to find a product that's made in America. In fact, most of the products are made in China, India, Korea, Pakistan. And these are people just like you and I that are going to work, and the products that they're making are having a direct impact on our lives. This was a very uncommon thing several hundred years ago. Today, what that means is that there's an increased diversity of situations possible in the workplace. This applies to market economics. This applies to our work when we have managers or foremen or team leaders come in from other countries to train us or to share with us their products or new technologies. This also applies to our own communities, nonprofit organizations. Just cleaning up your local watershed can put you in contact with people all over your state and people from other countries that have helped improve their own watersheds and are sharing with your local communities what they've learned. So your old paradigm used to be a very Western, very ethnocentric and self-centered paradigm of management. I always hear about the chief and the Indian kind of example. You have one guy and a bunch of little guys under him with no authority, and they look to the big guy, the hero, to tell them what to do, and sometimes they do it, or sometimes they just get away with what they can and do what's necessary for them. The new paradigm, it actually recognizes cultural differences and cultural influences and embraces those influences. And part of being a leader is recognizing those differences. The modern leader today recognizes roles in the workplace, not just your bottom line. And it finds people to fill those roles, and in order to do that, must take into consideration the cultural differences of those people that are filling those roles. The modern leader understands that their idea of how best to solve the problem is not necessarily important. Quite often they empower others to solve those problems according to their own cultural background. A good example of this is emerging leaders in self-built housing on the outskirts of Nairobi in East Africa, Mexico City, and São Paulo in Brazil. São Paulo in Brazil is an urban area surrounding a major city. It boasts a population that exceeds 16 million people. Within a year, you can have a whole community form. The people of these neighborhoods are complete with non-government regulated markets, black market power distribution, and self-organized sanitation policies and structures. People have come together, these neighborhoods have grown, and they have solved all these issues on their own. It's their local leaders that are helping others and creating economies outside of the government of Brazil. And it's these leaders that are slowly shaping Brazil. And it's these leaders in other countries that are shaping that country as well. With half the world's population earning $1 a day or less, it is probable that the future leaders of the world will come from these backgrounds. Will come from different backgrounds than the typical Western ethnocentric type of background that currently exists today and has existed for the last couple hundred years. An understanding of this diversity is not only necessary for today's leaders, but will play a great part in the textbook definition of the influence relationship that's among leaders and followers, that is within our definition of a leader. This brings up conflict dynamics. In the new paradigm, conflict dynamics is